dun 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 dun. Alright, that was my voice back there. And my name is Shun, and welcome to my channel, Han Shun. If you're watching this in another video or in a playlist, just welcome to Han Shun. And today we are gonna get into a video about siege warfare and the feudal system. Now, if you watch my Hands on History videos, I'll put the link in the description below if I am able to, which I might not be able to. Sorry, guys. We are gonna talk about the Middle Ages. Now, I did a lot of videos about it in my Hands on History videos, and if you want to learn from there, just check it out. Now, let's go on. Now today we're going to talk about siege warfare and the feudal system, and there are a lot of feudal systems in the world, and we're going to talk about the feudal systems of Europe and Japan. And I hope you can just get on with this. So let's get started. Roll 1. Boop. Alright, siege warfare is on our first list. Now the siege warfare, there are a lot of ways to do this, and the main ones are like, well, if I did get started on animation, which I think I will do later, there is a lot of things how to do it. First, defenders and attackers are needed. Now, first, the attackers try to break down the castle walls. If the attackers or the enemies or the defenders get too close to the castle walls, the defenders can drop stuff that can hurt the person or weapons that they're using. They sometimes drop in boiling oil, which is very painful, I have to say. I never experienced it myself, but I'm sure that it is painful. And even huge stones that the enemies might even have flung them. Now there's even a giant slingshot called the trebuchet, which can fling hundreds of miles of balls. Yes, I am not even kidding, guys. And even sometimes people can even get tied onto those balls. Yes. And well, yes. And also, there is also a kind of medieval siege engine. It's like a medieval tank called the Sow. Now, the Sow is like an engine, as I said earlier, and it also has a battering ram, and it also has fire in it, so that the attackers can shoot flaming arrows. And I once tried it in one of my favorite games in itself, and that arrow was really on fire. And this was really done on myself, and this can also be on real life. If you ever played any 3D games, you might really experience this, and it was really cool. And now back to Middle Ages. Now, as I said earlier, long ago, I have to say that the attackers might have felt that this thing that they're doing is like a game, a board game. Yes, it's kind of like the chess game that we have today, which is a strategy game, but it's really serious. They can hurt people, and it can even decrease the population of the world. Like if there was 100% of the world was million people, let's say that was that much, and then one person killed almost half of it, and they can just decrease it. I mean, this is really serious, guys. Even World War I and World War II destroyed some percent of the people and decreased it. But luckily, new babies were born. Now, let's get back to the castles. Now, castles weren't like the ones you might be thinking. It's not just stone walls with simple stuff in it. Yes, it is that. But it also had it's more complicated in the outside. It's made of stone, and it also had a lot of series of slates. It's not like Hogwarts or anything. Speaking of Hogwarts, I really want to make it. And it also has a water source. It's called a barrier, a moat. And it is filled with water. And sometimes even defenders put stinky stuff in there just to make sure that no one would swim. And when they are in attack, they would just put out their drawbridge. Yes, I mean it, guys. And now let's get to the feudal system. Now the feudal system, we're going to first talk about the European feudal system. Now there are 4 levels in the European feudal system. The first and lowest level are the peasants or servants or slaves. And the second level and the next to lowest level are knights. They are the soldiers of the medieval times, and this is also a theme for a lot of people, such as the Ben 10 series. There's the Forever Knights, and and a lot of TV shows got a lot of themes in this. And well, it was serious back then. And there are the nobles. It is the second highest one, and it's the third class. And back then, land was money. So if you own land, you are rich. And later, people started using printed money into their replacing land as money. But you can still own land, so. And now let's talk about the highest level of all, the kings. Well, it's actually the second highest level because, well, there's a fifth level, and that is the most highest level. That fifth level wasn't even added, and you might think that kings are the highest level, but it's actually the Pope. The Pope can banish kings, such as the example of Pope Gregory against King Henry. He even banished him, and then they made an alliance with a treaty called the Conquered Eye of Worms. Conquered Eye of Worms? That doesn't make any sense, but that is the funniest name of all for a treaty. Yes. Now that we got into the European feudal system, let's get into the Japanese feudal system. Now, during the Middle Ages, the Japanese also had a feudal system. First, there was the emperor. It's the highest one. Then there is the shogun. And then there's the daimyo. Later, the daimyo and the shogun will switch places. And then later, there will be the daimyo and then the shogun. Yes. Later, there is the samurai. And then later, there are the ronins. Now, the difference between the ronins are just samurai, but they have no master, or they just lost a master. And sometimes there's even a story called Seven Ronin who got revenge for their master's death. Yes. And then later there are not the peasants though. Yes, there are the peasants and made 90% of the population of Japan. Then there are farmers, and finally the farmers, the craftspeople, and then finally there are the merchants. Now, even if merchants were rich, they were still considered as the lowest class because they didn't do much anything, just trade. Yes, and it will later change. And then the emperor was replaced with the shogun, and then the shogun was replaced for the daimyo, and then the daimyo was later replaced by the emperor again. And, well, that's basically through our Middle Ages. I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did learn something new, please put them in the comments below. And I'll see you next time. Shenhan out. See ya. Yodelay. Oh.